Would you kill me if I got up and went to the bathroom? Cool. Thanks.
We're in the red, Josh. Red? Oh,
The soldiers are red. It's okay. You can go.
all right.
It's
Time
fine.
is
We
money.
can keep going. Wait till Josh gets back from the bathroom.
Let's buy more hard drives for
He's been
Jerry.
sitting down here for 30 minutes and chose this time.
He chose now. The soldiers are red. Time to go pee. Wait, what was the other term? Not God's will, God's bill. Is that God's
God's time.
God's time? It's
God's time.
Anyways, Josh,
Except that it's all God's time.
it's all God's time.
Ain't that the truth?
That is the truth.
And to be honest, it's all God's time.
It's,
Yeah.
And we don't live like that. So
that's
we're
true.
going to talk about that a lot today.
Josh, you ready?
Yeah, are we rolling?
Yep.
Yep. Soldiers are in the red.
This is
Soldier-
in it?
This
This is all in it.
Yeah, this is all in it. We're all here. We're all here.
Welcome to the MxU Podcast, everybody. You know, you're always kind of jumping in with us when we're in mid-convo, and so we've had a lot of interesting conversation already today. I'm Jeff Sandstrom, and we're joined today by Spencer and Nate and Josh from our team. So Nate is our social media manager with a new summer haircut. I like it.
Thank you.
A little high and tight.
Yep.
Got to get it for the
Billy's
summer.
Barbershop. Shout out.
All right.
Billy, my man.
Billy.
Social media manager kind of makes it sound like you just kind of scroll all day long.
No.
What's a day in the life of a social media manager?
These days it's a lot of thinking of content for the future, especially like carousel content, write-ups,
Yeah.
those things like that.
How can we get 100 people to say reverb in the comments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Or lately it's reverb, presets.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows what it might be?
Yeah.
We could be giving away anything.
Yeah. Hopefully it's something relevant, but
What if it was just like a
the gospel.
Jesus juke, man? That's pretty
It's
good.
always a Jesus juke.
Yeah.
Mate. Moving on.
And then Josh Reeder-Esparza is here with us. He is our
Esparza.
Esparza.
Oh,
He
you can
is
do it.
our one of our engineers that helps develop the platform and the websites and all the stuff. Utility engineer, I guess, is your
It's a funny
official
name.
title. It is a
Doesn't-
funny name.
Kind of makes it sound like I clean toilets.
Actually, right now, your title,
Yeah,
your
what is my
title
title
right
right
now.
now?
Let's look at what Josh's title
Is
is.
this like number 6?
Yeah,
Could be number 6.
Hold
Oh, on my...
On the
But
Slack.
you're the-
editor.
Yeah, probably can't say that one.
Yeah, we get editor in chief, Wide World Web.
Yeah, on Slack.
Wide World Web. Well, so for those of you who are on Slack in your sort of internal communication platform, it's really fun to sort of change your title
Yeah.
for the rest of your team because
There's some good ones on there.
Yeah,
Right?
Well-
for about a month I was an LS9 apologist because
Yeah.
that's the only thing I really knew how to.
but you were
actually
the
really know how
master
to-
of the LS9 when it was
The
when it
other
was
day,
relevant.
we've got Avantis in the back here, and I'm trying to get music playing in the back. And Nate was like, "You just gotta like unmute the mains." I'm like, "Yeah, but I didn't see any signal coming through." You just look at it, and he walks over. He's like, "You just gotta unmute the mains." So,
the big red mute
Yeah.
button.
Yeah.
Nate knows his way around a mixer.
Only thanks to you.
Mm.
And MxU, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Well,
LS9 apologist. That's funny.
I think another thing we need to point out, because this might be a fun thing to do for all the people who watch the podcast on YouTube,
Yeah.
is we have a new sort of Easter egg in our set.
Mm-hmm.
So I want people to find the Easter egg. Don't stare at it while you're.
They can't see my eyes. There's not a camera looking my direction right now.
Okay, so there's an Easter egg on the set, which I
Yeah.
think people should find and talk to us about. Maybe if they comment on YouTube, the right answer, we can shout them out or something. But then the other
Yeah.
thing we need to talk about, Josh, is your bracelet. Because I've had those bracelets many times on my wrist in my life. People might wonder, though, why is Josh bejeweled and bedazzled?
my daughter won't let me leave the house without this.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
my 2-year-old made this. I suspect that her mother did the spelling because it says Dada, and she's great, but I don't think she can spell yet.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it comes with me.
It's
I've-
adorable.
I've worn a
It's
bunch of those
precious.
over my life. I think Stella needs to make me bracelets again. That would
Yeah.
be
I
because
mean,
we're coming into our last year of officially being in our house full time, which
Yeah.
I'm dreading.
Yeah.
So I think we need to do a little throwback to the 2-year-old bracelet making, and she could adorn my wrists with appropriate bling.
yeah.
I
Now,
get out of the shower and she's waiting with it.
That's
She's
so
like, "You
good.
forgot this." I don't wear it in the shower. you forgot it.
I asked
Put
her
it
to
on.
make me one, and I'm still waiting on it. So.
Yeah, she had a hard time getting that she could make all the boys in her life.
Can someone tell
bracelets.
me what the Easter egg is? I'm still trying to figure out what.
We can tell you offline.
We can't tell you.
What is it?
I'm not going to tell you.
It's like this thing they put like candy and stuff.
There's
in.
a thing in
For
there's a
kids.
thing in the set that's new that wasn't here last
I was looking
time.
for like some sort of Michigan something.
Nope,
Somewhere.
that's not here yet.
Not yet.
There's no yet about that. We shouldn't have that up, right?
We're going to have that because there's way too much
Go Blue.
balls gear. Hey, how about the College World Series though?
Oh man, come on.
the Vols.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
We're in it.
we're in it.
What the next game's tonight or tomorrow?
It's
Tonight.
tonight. It's the final. It's
last.
the final.
It's
the
like if
last
they
game.
win tonight, it's all
If
over.
they win
Yes.
tonight,
See,
they're
this
the
is the game I
college
watch.
baseball champions.
I can't keep up with baseball, man.
Oh,
Too many games. I said this the other day.
All right, we're gonna derail this whole
Hold on.
podcast for this conversation
Well, I'm
because
just saying.
baseball is the best game other than golf ever.
That's.
This is
Both
this
both
is.
games that you can be a top level athlete and eat a hot dog while you do it.
But here's the thing. I love being at a baseball game. I love the vibe of baseball.
Oh yeah.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
But if you're a professional athlete and you're playing a sport where you can have 2 games in one day, that says something.
That's a good point.
That's a very good point.
It's just how is that possible?
I mean,
How
there
can
have
you-
been world records made by guys that are just a little bit tipsy. So I don't really know about
That's-
baseball as being like that kind of.
you need to be totally sharp kind of
Yeah,
thing.
An upper echelon athlete.
There's something
Yes.
kind of American about it.
Yeah,
The fact that you can kind of just like.
There's a reason that it's America's pastime
yeah.
yes.
because it reflects our society in ways that are better than any other sport.
That was well put.
It is.
I
It is
try to
called,
be agreeable.
It is called.
Try to be agreeable.
It is called America's pastime, and we're no longer in the past. Baseball's a great sport. One I wish I played growing up, but I just don't. It's not quick enough.
Well,
If I'm at a game, I'm there.
Dude, those
I'm
boys
loving it.
throw that ball 100 miles an hour.
It's like
It
That's
is
quick.
it is a crazy sport.
it's getting quicker.
It's difficult.
It's getting a little quicker.
Yes.
It's the only game where the defense has the ball.
Mm.
It is
that's interesting. I like these facts.
I like that take.
Yeah.
well, it's because it's an individual sport yet a team sport at the same time. In other words, you are responsible for contributing to the team in a way that is somewhat different than other sports.
Yeah.
There's, the showdown between the pitcher and the batter is like this sort of individual contest.
Yeah.
But then you contribute to the team's well-being and success by handling that well.
Mm-hmm.
People can fail 2 out of 3 times as a batter and still be in the Hall of Fame. It's like there's this human thing to it that's like it's about striving and it's about success, but it's also about managing failure.
Yeah.
I just think as a metaphor, baseball is a great picture of, in the same way that other sports can be metaphors. I think football is a great metaphor for
Anger.
striving, struggle, like, coming against adversity and,
Yeah.
hitting a brick wall every 5 minutes. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
there's value there.
Yeah.
Basketball, there's a beauty, there's a grace, it's awesome too.
Mm-hmm.
I just think to throw baseball under the bus just because it's not as cool as you think the NBA is
Yeah,
ludicrous.
Yeah. And I'm gonna
on
take
your
that.
side
I'm
now.
gonna take that egg on my face publicly right now.
And I will say there is
Look at Spencer being agreeable.
I'm agreeable over here.
there's a lot of cool strategy even in like base running and,
Oh, yeah.
and certain things like that. You know what, Jeff, you're right. I undersold it. Baseball is a great sport. Yeah, it's a great sport.
Well,
Not everything it's just different. It's just different than
Yeah.
other sports.
and I'm
that's
not
great.
sitting here just trying to be right. I just do believe that baseball is a great game.
Yeah.
I think it's a great game too. I really do, genuinely to my core. Great vibe.
My core.
Hey, the hot dog thing really did get me though. It's one of 2 sports. You can eat a hot dog and play at the same time.
But I think just the ability to hit a round ball with a round bat while the ball is traveling 100 miles an hour and curving,
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
it's like how is it even possible?
Yeah.
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 Much
there
less
is, there is something there for sure. Because like I could go on a good day and make a free throw. I don't think I could even get close to hitting a fastball ever.
Yeah, I don't think I
No,
do
and
either,
even a mildly slow fastball, like
Yeah.
to hit a fastball from a relief pitcher from the balls,
Yeah.
he might throw 85 instead of 95.
95.
Mhm.
And I couldn't hit an 85 mile an hour fastball
Yeah.
unless I closed my eyes and just got lucky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's what this is. Yeah. Go Vols. This is what we should be talking about all day.
Yeah.
All right. We've got a.
but that's not really what we're here to talk about.
It's not really what we're here to talk about. We have a service review. Just one, right, guys? Just one service review.
Yep.
Josh, can somebody? I don't want to turn my neck and read.
I got
Can
you.
somebody read it?
So this is from Harvest Church. They hosted a teen challenge event at their church, and Brian from Harvest Church is mixing, and it's his front of house mix from their console. So it's not a broadcast console. It's just straight off the front of house desk. Special event at their church, and we're just going to check it out and see how we can help them.
I was buried beneath my shame. Who could carry that kind of weight? Come on, sing with me, family. It was my till I met you, Jesus Christ. I was breathing but not alive. And all my failures I tried to hide. It was my truth till I met you. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Hey, hey. Out of the darkness into your glorious day. Come on, come on. You called my name and I ran out of that grave. Out of the dark into your glorious day.
They're
All right.
vibing.
Well, there's a lot of things we need to talk about, but for any of you who've been around Teen Challenge before, we would do a ton of concerts over the years when I was touring, where if we were in churches, the load in, load out crew was Teen Challenge. I mean, it happened over and over and over again. So I just want to shout out their ministry and what they do
Yeah. really
for
cool
people
stuff.
who have had things in their life that I cannot even imagine,
Mhm.
things that they've overcome, things that they have literally been brought from death to life
Yeah.
because of their circumstance, because of their choices, because of their addiction, whatever the case may be. Like, they do such great work.
Yeah.
So to see their sort of cohort singing a song like that is really powerful
Yeah.
because they know what it's like to be
Yeah.
dead and now alive. So the fact that the crowd is so engaged, the fact that they're just, every hand is up, people are jumping. It's
Looked
like
like a fun time.
I would love to be in that room
Yeah.
to help celebrate what they're doing. So first and foremost, that energy obviously translates through the screen. So that's one thing.
Mhm.
And I think, musically it's cool because I was in the room the first time that song was played in
Yeah.
public.
Yeah.
I was mixing.
Yeah.
Glorious Day, the first time Passion did it.
Kind of a flex, but it's cool.
Yeah. Very
It is a flex, but the older I get, the better
You
I
gotta take 'em.
was.
Yeah, you got to take those.
No, the older I get, the better I was. I got to keep flexing. It's like some of your NBA guys.
Keep flexing so you don't have atrophy. That's what it is.
That's right. That's right. You got to keep the muscles,
Yeah.
whatever. But I've never heard the song with that sort of halftime feel
Yeah.
in the verse.
Yeah.
That was really cool. Like
Was
they're
cool.
setting a vibe, and then when the chorus hits with the guitar lick, it's like, okay, now we're in.
Yeah.
So that part of it's really cool musically.
Yeah.
But we're not here to talk just about that. Let's talk about the mix.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can put language to this, Jeff. Why was the guitar so distracting?
Yeah.
Because it was too loud.
It just felt like really
Yeah.
loud, right?
Yeah. So the reason you're drawn to it is just a simple matter of volume.
Yeah.
So, Brian made it clear when he sent us the post that it's just his front of house mix. So it could be that he's trying to make the audience hear the guitar in the room over all the people screaming.
Yeah.
It could be that there's maybe acoustic bleed from the drums in the room
Yeah.
that we're not hearing through the mix, through the broadcast. So, I think one comment that I would make is the guitar was too loud relative to everything else. I couldn't hear any of the other instruments really, other than drums, vocal, and guitar. So there's a lot of keyboard stuff going on. There's a bass guitar. There's things in the mix that are hard to hear because the guitar is kind of overpowering. So I would say find a way to check that, either after a rehearsal, put in some headphones, put on some computer speakers and check what you've rehearsed. So record your rehearsal, double check what you're sending. And maybe if it's an aux mix, or if it's just straight out the left, right, then there's not a whole lot you can do.
Yeah.
But if you're sending your broadcast mix as an aux mix, then check those things and maybe turn down that aux a little bit, because it sounds like he's just compensating for something in the room.
Yeah.
I like that you can hear the guitar. Sometimes you can't hear anything but vocals and drums.
Yeah.
But I think in this case, I would probably back off that guitar a little bit. And then for me, the vocal, the level was great, but it just felt like it was not in a space.
Yeah,
So-
like it was almost like it wasn't compressed enough. Like there was something where it was like I kept losing him.
Yeah, and he was doing this a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
mic technique was part of it. He's in the room. He's trying to engage people. He's, so I get that. So yeah, maybe more compression so that we can minimize the dynamic
vocal
range.
support elsewhere too.
Yeah.
I feel like there could have been more voices there.
Yeah.
What we're doing here is singing.
Yeah. So I don't know if they have, vocals on tracks, if they have BGVs, but definitely some more vocal support, and then maybe some more reverb too.
I do have to say, shout out to that guy leading, because it's very rare to see a person that old leading a group of teenagers.
Kind of like
Not
this.
not saying that he's old.
Kind of like what we're doing in this room.
Not saying
He must
that
be like
he's that
they
old.
just wrote
but-
like,
hey,
man.
hey, hold on. It's great to see the older generations pouring into students. That's the point that I'm making and shouting out this guy. He was a cool guy. Not sure what's up with the QR code T-shirt, but he's a cool guy.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was great.
It does kind of have QR code vibes. That was you rescued that one a bit. That's
Thanks.
good.
Next
But-
time, instead of saying that old, you could say this old. Make it about you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not that old.
Listen, speaking for the old people,
Yeah,
I appreciate it
thank you. Yeah, Jeff's got my back.
Yeah, he does. He does. I definitely just
because I
ran
feel
you right
like
over.
the pressure of an old person leading a room full of teenagers.
Thanks, Uncle Jeff.
Yeah.
teenagers.
Uncle Jeff should
It's
be
so
your
fun
title in
working
Slack.
with minors, isn't it, Jeff?
Yeah, that's going to be my new Slack,
Yeah,
my
Uncle
new
Jeff.
Slack title.
Uncle Jeff.
Uncle Jeff,
AKA Spencer's dad.
aka
Spencer's
manager
dad.
of teens.
Manager of teens. The last thing I would say too is like, it seemed from the stream, which whole other, I have questions about like who's watching this. I saw like the prayer hotline and like I don't know what was this a Sunday or was
No, it
this,
was a conference.
Oh, it was okay, yeah. So I don't know.
So they could have
Point
had
of that.
some dedicated sort of interaction happening online if you need help, if you're whatever, because
Yeah.
it is an organization
Yeah.
that is designed around that. So
Yeah, makes sense. The thing that was kind of strange to me is it seemed like there was a lot of light in the room, but for some reason, and maybe it's because he was moving around a lot, but it was distracting at times because it was like I can't fully see him. Like he kept going into the shadows, and it was like I'm like watching. Yeah, it just seemed like there was plenty of light, but not a whole lot of light was actually on him.
Yeah, so I think it's a good reminder of how important front light is
Yeah.
for video.
Yeah.
Because I think you have a vibe in the room that might be really cool because there's maybe movers and, stuff kind of ballyhooing around that is causing some of those shadows.
Yeah.
But even front light for video, just to have that kind of clean coverage is
Yeah.
really important. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
gonna
Makes sense.
we're gonna try to help people more and more with that as we go because
Yes.
we've got a couple episodes coming up that are gonna
Yeah.
focus on lighting
Yep.
that are gonna be super helpful.
Mm-hmm.
We have
Yeah.
some content releasing tomorrow. And
What is it?
it is remote broadcast mixing is the course dropping tomorrow.
Is this the one with the personas?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh.
So this is really interesting. And I think, the Personas solution is really cool. It's called UC Metro, Universal Control Metro. It's their product where basically if you have a PreSonus desk, you can have this utility that just works over the internet. So you don't have to have any special hardware. It's just an internet connection and an app where basically you can control their mixer remotely. So if you have, let's say you have a Studio Live 64. So you've got, let's say you have 32 channels on one layer and then 32 channels kind of double patch for your monitor desk. Well, then you can use this utility and have your monitor mix or your broadcast mix or however you use those additional layers happening somewhere else.
Yeah.
So somebody can mix literally from their living room, from another part of the building, from wherever else.
Yeah.
That is an interesting thing.
Yeah.
So,
So many people, might not understand because they might be going like, well, isn't that just, and like my iPad app I use for my X32 or whatever, but it's like, no, the fact that you can actually monitor with very, very little latency.
Yeah.
And I think PreSonus told us they had tested it like Baton Rouge to Toronto or something like that.
Baton Rouge to, either Canada or California,
Yeah,
wherever
and
it was.
Like, I can't remember. I think they said it was some ridiculous, I'm not going to say a number because I'll probably be wrong, but it was a ridiculously low latency.
Yeah, I think
remember
it was
when-
less than 100 milliseconds
Yeah.
cross
Caleb got a
country.
demo of it, Caleb Willen, and he was
Yeah.
astounded. He was like, he came out of the video room after having a call with them, was like, I can't believe they've done this.
Yeah. Which, like, for such an inexpensive console,
Yeah.
the fact that can be done,
Yeah.
save people a lot of money.
And I think more and more manufacturers are going to do that.
Yeah.
I think, this idea of what we can do over network and over a robust internet connection with audio is only going to get more and more surprising and helpful. And
I'm just imagining a church with someone and they have their monitor console is just an iPad. And they're like, here you go.
Yeah.
It's like,
well, my church, it's funny. The guys on stage at my church use their phones. It's through LV1. It's a program called MyMon, and they literally just on their phone can make all their mix changes.
yeah.
Modern day Aviom.
Yes, that's right. It's
Cool.
it's all a takeoff of the
hmm
sometimes blessing, sometimes curse Aviom systems that we all grew up with. But
Mimon.
The number
Mimon.
of times that I forgot that the cans that I had in were connected to that instead of walking.
walk away,
Just I go, the thing goes, everything around it.
the whole
think it's
stand
the-
falls
yeah.
over.
The PSM,
Chaos.
are they the PSM 400s, the Shure wired
Oh,
packs?
yeah. The wired packs.
Mhm.
The amount, those things, the amount of times those had to be resoldered.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if you buy
Because
those,
the
pins,
you
yeah.
have to buy it, and then you have to buy like 20 belt packs because you're gonna break that little metal
Yeah.
thing off.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
you just got to remember you're on a leash.
Exactly. Especially when you're playing bass.
Yeah.
All bass players
Yeah.
belong on a leash.
So that drops tomorrow. And so if you're a subscriber or you're on our email list, you'll get an email about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Make sure to check it out. I think it's really, even if you don't use PreSonus products, it's a really interesting idea.
Yeah.
And it's going to kind of be something that we see more and more often.
Nate, we'll go get you on socials.
Sure will.
It'll be good. It'll be great.
What if they had something like that for LS9? Would you have just dominated
I
even
probably
more?
would still be mixing. I wouldn't be cleaning toilets and
He probably-
doing engineering.
He wouldn't
He
be
probably-
a utility engineer.
Yeah. He wouldn't be doing lines. That's our new thing now for
Lines
for-
of code.
Yeah,
Lines
lines
of
and
code.
codes. Just anytime I ask Eric or Josh, I'm like, "You guys doing lines back there?" It's always a fun thing.
So we don't have an outside guest today. We don't have one of our
Yeah.
experts who's filming content to come in and talk about their area of expertise. So I think when we have kind of circumstances like this, we're just going to sort of talk among our team about
Yeah.
a couple of different, I wouldn't call them hot takes. I would just say like things that we need to push against, things that we need to challenge ourselves with, things that we need to challenge our community with. And so we were talking earlier, like some of these things might get a little uncomfortable as we move forward, but this is kind of our first one of these. So it's like
Yeah.
I don't know, just a topic that we need to address.
We're in the minor leagues right now.
We're in the
Yeah.
minor leagues.
We're working our way up to the
Yeah,
majors.
we're waiting to get called up to the bigs.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the show.
And it's interesting for somebody like myself in topics like the one we're going to dive into today. It can be really easy to take a I'm a bit black and white. I've been accused of being black and white at times, not agreeable. And I would say for myself, but I think the posture of all of us here and our in MxU is like, hey, we're wrestling with some things and we don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
But we should talk about it.
Yeah.
Like what we're going to talk about today is something that I think has been personal to each of us in our journey in the church, and whether we're working in it or not working in the church vocationally. Yeah, I think our posture is not to go kick everyone's shins and say, we have the right answer. But there is conviction in a lot of what we talk around here.
And I was telling Josh earlier, it's like, I don't want these conversations to just be throwing stones at problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to try to be helpful. I want to give people maybe something to think about that they might not have otherwise.
Yeah.
'Cause it is so easy when you're on church staff to just get, I don't know, bogged down in this is the way we do things, and this is our methodology, and this is our sort of standard operating procedure on so many things, that I think to just step back and zoom out a little bit to go, okay, am I thinking about all this in the right way?
Yeah.
Or is there anything I could challenge myself with? So we're going to talk a lot about those kinds of things. But for today, the way we phrase this is spending money in the church should be difficult.
Agreed. I'm agreeable.
Yeah.
I mean, this is where this stemmed from. You know, I'm talking to churches every day, and most conversations in talking with church worship pastors, tech directors, executive pastors, there's always we're typically talking with them about technology, right? That's what we're assisting the church with.
Yeah.
And more often than not, somewhere in the conversation comes up the idea of like, well, we're going to need to upgrade our gear, or we want to subscribe to MxU, or the idea of having to pay for something that church is very real, that every church is facing. But it's so interesting that commonly churches carry this like, yeah, it's you know how it is, like it's just really difficult to get things approved, and there's almost a level of maybe resistance to that or cynicism, like, well, we got to wait for the next budget cycle. This has got to get approved by our elders. And I started realizing as I'm talking with these churches, and I don't think that's bad. I think that's okay that we have budgets in the church and there are approval processes. And so, yeah, you know, I think that happened a few weeks ago, and I told Austin, I told our team, like, we should talk about this. Because I think there's some encouragement I think we can give some of those churches who might see that as bad or wrong, or maybe they just need to know, like, hey, that's that fiscal accountability that you're experiencing, and maybe the slower pace of spending is okay, and you don't need to be discouraged in that.
Yeah. I think it can be hard sometimes as a church staff, a former church staff, like just someone on the org chart versus now leading a local church. When you are on a church staff like that, of really any big size, you can come against the challenges of, man, I've got to wait for this super long approval process. But then you might see an executive pastor go wine and dine a new hire or one. And so I can understand, even as you were like talking about this, I can understand the struggle of like, okay, we've talked for years about installing this new, you know, whether it be a console or whatever, PA, this thing over here, and we're having to wait like another 6 months. We've already been talking about it for 2 years, whatever it is. And then you look over and see, you know, pastor or whatever. It's like spending, we have a guest speaker in town, so we have to wine and dine. We have to take them to the nicest restaurant. We have to do all these things to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
And
It
So
can
I
feel
can-
like it can feel like there's a double standard. maybe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I don't have an answer to that
Yeah.
because obviously I don't know the motives of those people and those things, but I can understand as someone who's been kind of in that middle management or that, not executive team of a leader,
Mhm.
I can see how that is a challenge. And how would you guys, like, what would be some encouragement to someone who's in that season of like, I see this happening. I don't want to grow in resentment, but like, I also feel like this is a little like the tension.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, I don't know, because I think it is, especially in large organizations,
Yeah.
it can be a problem. I think not even just I don't get to do this, but they get to do this. I think there's also a layer of, okay, how can I game the system?
Yeah.
Like there's some people in large churches who are like, let's see, if I can convince them that I can sort of spend my regular budget on my personal credit card and get reimbursed, then I can get the airline points, or I can get the rewards, or I can get the cash back, or whatever. It's like, okay, are we really going to like manipulate the structure of our systems here? Like, okay, maybe you can get away with that, but it's like,
Yeah.
is that really what we're talking about? And for some people, it's like, yeah, I want to take advantage. I want to leverage any opportunity I have because, gosh, those points add up. If I can put a console on my personal credit card and they get reimbursed by the budget, we can go on vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just it feels a little icky, but
it feels worldly.
it feels
There is this
and-
level of like, the more that you see this entity as a business
Yeah.
versus the church,
Yeah.
you will start to act in ways
Yeah.
that is commensurate to how you would act in the world.
Yep.
And a great example is, how can I game this for myself versus seeing the inputs? Like the God ordained way for us to fund the ministry is tithes and offering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To not have that reverence that this is, we don't need to like kneel down and pray for every time you like buy a coffee,
right.
but to not have that attitude in an ongoing manner can lead you then to what you just spoke of, this resentment of money is just another obstacle in this business
Right.
that I need to get past, versus we have a mission to accomplish.
Yep.
And have I completely lost the idea of the mission because I'm so frequently thinking about how to run this business?
Yeah. It's almost like there's someone coming to bringing their sacrifice, even in the temple system, right?
Yeah.
Bringing their sacrifice versus someone who is behind a table selling the doves for the sacrifice
Yeah.
Yeah.
and trying to
Yeah.
sell something that's inferior or unclean
Yeah,
or
you look
whatever.
at the money
Just
changers
money changers in the temple.
in the
It's like,
temple,
yeah.
they were making a little money on the top.
Yeah.
That currency didn't equal out. So it's like, we have examples of this.
Yeah, and we're not saying that everybody does this. We're not saying that but even it's funny when I go back to even the early days of the MxU platform,
Mm-hmm.
and we were trying to decide what the price should be.
Yep.
There was a conversation around the table of, you know what, if we make an annual subscription less than $500,
Yep.
then anybody could do it
Instant.
because they don't need to get approval for a $500
Yeah.
expense. And it's like, that's just not true.
Yeah.
Like there
Should
are
we publicly repent for that right now?
Yes. Seriously, I've
Yeah.
been convicted because
Yeah.
there are thousands of churches for whom that is not the case.
Yeah.
Yep.
There are thousands of churches that have a budget, an annual budget for technology and production of less than $5,000 a year.
Yeah.
So, for us to be so arrogant as to think, well, anybody could spend $500 without getting approval. It's like, no, actually spending money in the church should be difficult.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and so many churches, gosh, this is always so humbling when I talk to these folks, where it's like the volunteers, the one who are paying for some of these things. They're like, well, I add a roll of gaff tape to my family's Amazon subscribe and save once a month, and I just bring it to the church because the church needs it, right? And it's like,
Or batteries or other expendables.
and they're not reimbursing. They're not
Right.
having that reimbursed, and
Right.
and a lot of them, I bet, are not even. It'd be so easy, like, I'm not going to tithe. I'm just going to do this instead. It's probably above and beyond,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful thing. But and you're right, Jeff. Like we don't know we only know what we've seen and what we've been a part of, right? And I can say for myself, like in my days working in ministry, I didn't have any experience other than that. I worked at, as a teenager, worked at a Best Buy, right?
Yeah.
But outside of that, like I went straight into full-time vocational ministry
At a megachurch. Yeah.
And I don't think that's unique. I think a lot of people, that is their story. I
Yeah.
know that was your story, Nate. Like you just go right into it and it's all you ever know. And it can be really, really easy when I look back at myself, I just didn't have a clue how things worked just in a normal business. And I actually reflect my time in ministry. It wasn't until I stopped working in ministry vocationally and went to work for a tech company and realized it was actually harder to spend money in the business world than it was to spend money in the church.
Interesting.
And I was personally like, oh, maybe it's influenced by movies or whatever, our own ideas of, you think in the business world, it's just like, go expense everything.
Everybody has an expense account.
Everybody
Yeah.
has an expense account and blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't that way. And I actually felt like in the church, it was like pretty much all my meals were paid for. We joke about it, but it really was like, hey, if it's God's will, it's God's bill. Swipe the card. And I have to answer. I mean, so I go back to, that's what I experienced. And I'm a part of that. I was a part of that. We got to recognize though, it actually, we might be trying to keep up with something in the business world that actually isn't there. And we're creating this idea that like, oh no, like it's good. It's good to be able to spend money quickly and easily because we got to advance the ministry. But let's be really honest with ourselves. It's usually not money that's getting in the way of us advancing ministry and discipling people.
Yeah.
It's usually
That's another conversation that we're going to have to kick people in the shins about. But I think it's interesting though, as you were talking about your story, this was happening at a time in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You were 19, 20 years old. You were just learning how spending money as an adult works in the first place.
Yeah.
And then seeing it sort of in your experience with the church, it's like there's this built-in tension, right, for a young person who's trying to figure out a family budget, trying to figure out stewardship, trying to figure out how to have an appropriate lifestyle, whatever it is, as a, even if they went to college, 23, 24, 25-year-old kid.
Yeah.
I say that as an adult, as an old person,
As a legacy member.
as an Uncle Jeff.
As Uncle Jeff.
as Uncle Jeff. Yeah. It's like,
Legacy member is hilarious.
no, but when I think about people half my age,
Yeah.
I remember how difficult it was for me just to figure out like how to manage money in this world.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have an organization that you're a part of, and we're talking about large organizations at this point, when you have an organization that is a little bit loose or lax with what you can get away with, so to speak, it's just hard to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And if that becomes the standard for you, then you almost like, I don't know, it's like, yeah, I want to live my life so that I can get those free lunches because I don't have to buy lunch for myself anymore.
Yeah.
Or, I can tag along to this dinner and, actually have a great meal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes sort of this habit that becomes an expectation that becomes a right.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, are we thinking about this in the right way?
Yeah, there's some encouragement there to be had for leaders in the church who have those 20-somethings under their care and their ministry, and that the way that you lead this will, and for you, influences your life, and it is going to change the way that they view money as well as how they view the church and money.
Yeah.
And those really challenging uphill battles of like, we want to do this thing, we have to delay it, those things can also be viewed as this is an opportunity for patience and growth, and as well as development for people that may not have a great amount of time where they've spent this kind of money, putting these systems in, things like this.
That's really good.
Yeah.
There's a lot to be learned there.
Yeah, because we don't live in a culture of delayed gratification
Yeah,
anymore.
No, we don't.
Say,
Right?
Yeah.
We're in an instant gratification culture.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Everything is instant. Everything, whether it's what you see on social media or what you have instant access to anything on the internet.
Yeah.
So the expectation is I should be able to get what I want when I want it, and that's now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But how gratifying is it to have to wait?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know there are a lot of people in churches who are listening to this going, yeah, I've been waiting for years.
Yeah.
It's time.
Yeah.
And I get that.
Yeah.
So it's like we need to hold these things in tension.
Mm-hmm.
And for us, we're running a business that needs people to spend money.
Yeah.
Like I need churches to buy what we're providing
Yeah.
because that's how we support the 8 families who are on our team. So
And
it's like,
serve thousands of churches.
and serve thousands of churches. Right. So it's like there is a practical reality of, yes, I want you to spend this money. We have integrator partners and manufacturer partners who need people to spend money, need churches to buy what they're selling. So this is not a conversation to say you don't need
Close the purse.
technology. Right?
Yeah.
You don't need
We might be shooting ourselves in the foot.
you don't need to upgrade. You don't ever need to spend. Yes, you do. If you're running a large organization in our culture today, you can't do it without spending money.
Yeah.
So we're not talking
even
about
a small
that.
organization.
Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
everybody needs to spend money to keep the lights on at least.
Yeah.
And to provide technology to help their ministry thrive and grow.
Yeah.
So we're not saying just sit on your hands and
Yeah.
don't, but by the same token, we are dealing with the widow's mite in a lot of cases. And so, how would we act differently if we felt like it was coming out of our budget
Yeah.
at my house?
Yep.
Like would I be okay with approving this expense if I knew that it was the check that I wrote to the church for this month's tithe?
Yeah.
And I hope that most cases I would say, yes, I approve that.
Yeah.
But do I want you to be able to be the 8th person around the table at the lunch at the, I think if some of our membership knew what our tithes and offerings were being spent on, there might be a little bit of a conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah,
So
that's. I was gonna say, like, I think a lot of people know in their heart of hearts that if I brought this to the average person in my congregation, they would not be okay with it, or in some cases they might. But generally speaking, if you start to apply that filter of these people are trusting the church to steward this money, you're gonna have a completely different attitude than, again, this business has an account and I want to do this thing and make it happen.
Yeah, I think what can be difficult in, you're a tech director, in my experience as a student pastor, you have to personalize your spending. That you have to do that and think about it as like you said, like this came out of my tithe. Is this worth my tithe? Is what I'm about to spend this money on? Is it like we just bought an LED wall? There's smaller and more pixels.
Yeah.
Do we need to buy another LED wall?
Yeah.
Which, we can ship those off to the other campuses and it can be, but like, man, if I already have that 75-inch TV in my house.
Yeah.
And
do I need the 90?
Do I need the 90?
Yeah.
That 77 would look great in our bedroom, babe.
And we could put that one in the kids' room.
Yeah. Cocoa melon on 90 inches. Imagine. But I think you have to personalize it, because if you don't personalize it, then it can very easily get to, I'm just swiping the church's credit card. And what's crazy now looking back is I've joked about like thanks, senior pastor's name.
Yeah.
Thanks, executive pastor's name.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, like this was part of my tithe, part of this person's tithe.
Thanks, Adam's family.
Yeah, right. Thanks, Joneses. Thanks, Robin.
Yeah.
Like,
Thanks, single mom.
thanks, single mom. Yeah, and I think the story that comes to mind in Scripture is when Jesus looks at the widow who brings her 2 coins, and Jesus tells the disciples, she gave out of her poverty, and these other Pharisees, they gave out of their wealth.
Mhm.
Like hers was worth more.
Yeah.
And that, to me, that goes like, yeah, there is some wrestling and repenting that I have to do for the way I had previously spent church money. And that's a challenging thing for me to deal with. And I think for those listening or watching who have a church credit card or who have a personal card that they expense all the time, like, have you detached yourself from the mission and vision of your church?
Yeah.
And like, if you have, you need to reattach to it. When the tithes and offerings buckets are being passed, which of course rarely anyone gives physical money anymore, like, look around when you're at front of house. Look around and see what's happening, and notice the families, notice the people in your congregation, and let that be the filter and lens that you start thinking about money through when you're using your church card and church money.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
And as senior leaders, executing accountability, there's good and bad ways to do accountability. And yes, you could be in one of those cases where it's just a constant uphill battle. We can never spend money. If your structure is not built in a way that makes people, instead of feeling like they're having a battle, makes them recognize the weight of what they're doing, as well as actually come to grips with, is this something I need? Am I being, maybe not thrifty, but am I being reasonable?
Mm-hmm.
There's a way to do that enables people to also be good stewards. And that will spread through an organization.
Yeah.
But that comes from your capacity to do the extra hard work of, when things come through, having personal relationships already set that you can then have those conversations in ways that enable everybody to make decisions that are more God-honoring, as well as honoring the congregation who's entrusted you with their funds.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I think a lot of this comes down to just a mentality that says, are we an organization that's actually a church?
Right.
Or are we just a large American nonprofit organization?
Yeah.
Because I think there is a different level of awareness and thoughtfulness and intentionality from either one of those sort of filters and paradigms. The interesting thing, though, is that if you apply for a grant, or you sort of go through a process from a nonprofit in this country, like a foundation or a, any kind of nonprofit, they make it very clear in their paperwork that 95% of our donations go toward our mission, go toward services, go toward whatever. Like, they want you to know that they're not spending your money unwisely.
Yeah.
And that's part of their kind of fundraising brochure. And they, 90 whatever percent, it's like, they want to make it clear that we're not wasting your contribution. We're going to steward it well.
Yeah. This isn't going towards catered breakfast once a week for our whole staff.
Right. So I wonder if churches were obligated to provide that same kind of sort of openness and transparency, if it would always line up with, and it's a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
And we're not trying to throw anybody under the bus.
Yeah.
I know that if you have a catered meal for your volunteers at a team night or anything like that, or if you do provide donuts or something for people who show up at 6 a.m, like, there is huge value in that.
Yeah.
So we're not saying to stop doing that.
Yeah, because that's a reflection of your church body.
Right.
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 And this is where we just have to recognize, and this is a even deeper discussion of, like, what's the purpose of tithes and offerings? Like, what does the Bible say about that? And because when you really start reading through this, it's like, man, we've taken up a bit of as you said, Jeff, taken up a bit of a nonprofit mentality.
Mm-hmm.
Bible doesn't talk about stewarding a nonprofit.
Right.
It's like, it talks about stewarding a church.
Yeah.
And
Giving to those who have need.
Yeah. While in America today, the government probably sees the church and nonprofit as just kind of just one category.
And there's a lot of people who are trying to abolish the nonprofit status for churches.
Yeah.
So there is a real thing there. It's like,
but we kind of just have put it in our box if it's just all one thing. And
Yeah.
it's like, no, there's a different mandate and a different requirement
Mhm.
of the church
Yeah.
than there is just being a nonprofit. And I think Philo, amazing nonprofit. There's so many great nonprofits out there.
Yeah.
Not church. It's not a church.
Right.
And they should be run differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we've got to be really, really intentional in, I think what you said is great, Nate, like humanizing it and really recognizing where is this coming from? Like who sacrificed to be able to bear the burdens of the community? And are we bearing the burdens? Is that the priority? Even as a technician in the church.
Yeah.
And this is where if that doesn't excite you, just be honest about it. Recognize maybe you need to go work for somebody else.
Some other nonprofit.
Yeah. Maybe you just need to go, if you love new gear and tech and that's what really gets you going, like go work for a rental house, go work for an integrator, go work for like where you can do those things if you love it so much. If that is the driver for you working in ministry and then you're just constantly going to be beating up against a wall
Yeah.
of, well, we need to have this, we need to have that. This is why I love Corey, your tech director at your church, Jeff. It's like, he's like, yeah, I like technology, but like, I don't, and I have some gifting in that area, but that's not the meat and potatoes of why I do this.
Yeah.
And it's okay to be honest and say, man, I'm really more wired to talk about knobs all day long. And I love talking about how we can upgrade and get our rigs dialed and systematize and blah. Like, that's great. But if that's the meat and potatoes of it for you, that might be why you're frustrated.
Yeah.
And you might just need to be honest with yourself. And for me, there was a season where I was just like, I got to stop lying to myself. And because I got into this for a different reason. I'm realizing I got into this for a different reason than I should have. And that's okay. Like, it's okay to be open about that stuff. I think sometimes we just want to take on because pastors constantly telling us it's about people and this. And so we know the right words and we're like, oh, it's about, I'm here because I love people and I love discipling. But I think it's important to just recognize that might not actually be your core motivation, and be honest with yourself and move forward in the ways that you need to.
Yeah.
To each his own there.
That's good. Well, we could spend hours and hours talking about this, and we will, but we can't today.
Yeah.
Because we've got to get a lot of other work done.
Yeah.
But thank you for joining us for the MxU podcast. Be on the lookout for the drop tomorrow of the UC Metro content.
Mm-hmm.
We can't wait to hear your feedback on that. We think it's a resource that's really helpful. And for this conversation, just remember, this isn't about not spending money.
Yeah.
It's just about the fact that spending the resources that we've been stewarded to manage should be a challenge, should be difficult, should require thought, should require some maybe
Prayer.
Well, there's that, but a little bit of conflict even
Yeah.
to go, okay, the tension is actually good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we pray that you'll steward your resources well.
Yeah.
And can't wait to talk to you again on the next episode of the MxU podcast.